us, please?" asked Joe politely. "Some of our friends are in difficulties here." He was just going on to explain when he suddenly stopped and ran at Silky, who was stroking the black cat and saying sweet things to it. She was very fond of cats and stroked everyone she saw. But she mustn't do that in the land of enchantments. It was too late. She had done it. Now she had to follow the enchanter, who smiled at them. "A nice little fairy," he said to them. "I shall like having her around with the black cat. She will be company for him. She can take care of him." To the great dismay of the others, the enchanter swept off, taking poor Silky, his cloak flowing out, covering her and the cat. "Oh, now Silky's gone," sobbed Franny. "First it was Beth, then Moonface, and now Silky. Whatever are we going to do?" "Look," said Saucepan suddenly, and he pointed to a little shop nearby. On it was painted a sentence in yellow paint. "Come here to get things you have lost." "What about trying to get Connie's voice there?" said Saucepan. "Not that I want her to have her voice back. I think she's much nicer without it, but we might be able to get it back if we go to that shop." They went over to it, Franny still wiping her eyes. The shop was kept by the same beautiful fairy who had flown to Mrs. Hidden's cave and whose secret Connie had overheard. Connie was afraid of going to her, but Saucepan pulled her over to the shop. The beautiful fairy knew Saucepan and was delighted to see him. When he told her about Connie, she looked grave. "Yes, I know all about it," she said. "It was my secret she heard, and a very wonderful secret it was. Has she written it down to tell any of you?" Connie shook her head. She took out her little notebook and wrote in it. She tore out the page and gave it to the fairy. "I am very sorry for what I did," the fairy read. "Please forgive me. I haven't told the secret, and I never will. If you will give me back my lost voice, I promise never to peep and pry again, or to try and overhear things not meant for me." "I will forgive you," said the fairy gravely. "But Connie, if you're ever to tell the secret, I'm afraid your voice will be lost again and will never come back. Look, I will give it back to you now, but remember to be careful in future." She handed Connie a little bottle of blue and yellow liquid and a small red glass. "Drink what is in the bottle," she said. "Your voice is there. It's a good thing I didn't sell it to anyone." Connie poured out the curious liquid and drank it. It tasted bitter and she pulled a face. "Oh, how horrid!" she cried, and then clapped her hands in delight. "I can speak! My voice is back! Oh, I can talk!" "It's a pity," said Saucepan. "I like you better when you don't talk. Still, I needn't listen." Connie was so excited at having her voice back again that she talked and talked without stopping. The others were very silent. Both Joe and Saucepan were worried, and Franny was still crying. "Be quiet, Connie," said Joe at last. "Saucepan, what shall we do?" "Go back and ask my mother for another spell," said Saucepan. "That's the best thing I can think of." So they all went back to the hole in the cloud, but they couldn't get down it because there were so many people coming up. "The land of enchantments must be moving away again soon," said Saucepan in dismay. "Look, everyone is hurrying back to it with their toadstools and things." "We can't risk going down to your mother then," said Joe, more worried than ever. "If the land moves on, it will take Moonface, Beth and Silky with it, and we shall never see them again." They sat down at the edge of the hole and looked worried and upset. Whatever were they going to do? Then Franny gave such a loud cry that everyone jumped. "What's that? What's that sticking out of the spout of that kettle, Saucepan? Something red waving about. Look!" Everyone looked, and Saucepan gave a shout. It's a spell! It must have crawled up the spout, and that's why we didn't see it when we looked in the kettle. It couldn't get out because the spout is too small. Those are its leg things waving about, trying to get out of the spout. Quick, get it out, Saucepan, said Joe. Bad spell, naughty spell, said Saucepan severely, and poked his finger into the spout, pushing the spell right back. It fell with a little thud into the inside of the kettle. At once, Saucepan took off the lid, put in his hand and grabbed the spell. He jumped to his feet. Come on, maybe we've just got time to rescue the others. Beth first. They rushed to the magic ring and Saucepan stepped into it with the spell held firmly in his hand. At once the chalk ring faded away, the fairies ran off and Beth was free. How she hugged Saucepan. No time to waste, said Saucepan, and ran off to find Silky. He saw the enchanter in his floating cloak talking to a witch and rushed up to him. Silky, Silky, where are you? I've a spell to set you free, cried Saucepan. The enchanter looked down and saw the wriggling red spell in Saucepan's hand. He shook out his cloak and Silky appeared. Saucepan took her by the hand. Come on, you're free. You don't need to follow him anymore. He's afraid of this spell. The enchanter certainly was. He ran off with his black cat without a word. Now for Moonface, said Saucepan. Gosh, can I hear the humming noise that means this land will soon be on the move? He could, and so could the others. With beating hearts, they rushed to the Green Goblin's shop. There was no time to waste. Saucepan threw the red spell at the goblin and it went down the back of his neck. You're free, Moonface. Come quickly, cried Saucepan. The land is on the move. Moonface rushed after the others, leaving the goblin to try and grab the wriggling spell. Everyone rushed to the hole that led down through the cloud. The land was shaking a little already, as if it was just going to move. Beth and Franny were pushed down quickly, then Silky and Connie followed, almost falling down in their hurry. Then came Moonface and Joe, and last of all Saucepans and Kettles. He got free and fell down with a bump. The land's just off, he cried, as a creaking sound came down the ladder. We only just escaped this time. Gosh, look how I've dented my kettles. Chapter 20. What is wrong with the faraway tree? Connie was very talkative for a few days after they'd been to the land of enchantments. It seemed as if she had to keep on making sure she had her voice back. Well, I half wish you'd lose it again, said Joe when Connie had talked for about 10 minutes. Do let someone else get a word in, Connie. We'll have to take her to the land of silence, said Beth. Then she'd be quiet for a bit. What's the land of silence, said Connie, who really loved to hear of all the different lands that came to the top of the tree. I don't know. I only just thought of it, said Beth, laughing. It may not be a land at the top of the tree for all I know. I wonder what land is there now, said Connie. When are we going to see, Joe? There's no hurry, said Joe. You know Silky and Moonface have gone away on holiday for a bit, so they aren't in the tree. We'll wait till they come back. They'll be back on Thursday, said Franny. We'll go and see them then. We'll stop and buy some of Mrs. Saucepan's cakes and take them up to Moonface's. Mother, can we go on Thursday? Yes, said Mother. I'll bake some new bread for you to take too. Connie could hardly wait till Thursday came. Joe laughed at her. Well, considering that you jeered at the enchanted wood and didn't believe in the faraway tree or any of the folk in it, to say nothing of the lands at the top, it's funny that you're keener than any of us to visit there now, said Joe. Thursday came. After their dinner, the children packed up Mother's lovely new bread and set off to the enchanted wood. They jumped over the ditch and landed in the quiet wood. The trees were whispering together loudly. They seem to be louder than usual, said Joe. They seem sort of excited today. I wonder if anything has happened. Whish, 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 whispered the trees together and waved their branches up and down. Whish, 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 whish. The children walked to the faraway tree. There it was, enormous, its great trunk towering upwards, and its wide spreading branches waving in the wind. Joe gave a little cry of surprise. What's happening to the tree? Look, some of its leaves are curling up, sort of withering. Surely it isn't going to shed its leaves yet. Well, it's only summertime, said Beth, feeling the leaves. Don't they feel dry and dead? I wonder what has happened to make them go like this. Perhaps the leaves will be all right a bit higher up, said Connie. It's not growing any sort of fruit down here, is it? That's unusual. It certainly was. The faraway tree, as a rule, grew all kinds of different fruits all the way up. It might begin with lemons, go on to pears, load itself a bit higher up with peaches, and end up with acorns. You never knew what it would grow, but it certainly grew something. Now, today, there was no fruit to be seen, only withering leaves. Joe leapt up onto the first branch. Up he went to the next and the next, but all the way up the leaves seemed to be withering and dying. It was curious and rather alarming. The faraway tree was magic. Something very serious must be the matter if the leaves were dying. That's the first sign that a tree itself is dying if the leaves wither, said Joe. The others looked upset. They loved the faraway tree and all its little tree folk. It wasn't only a tree. It was a home for lots of little people and the path to strange adventures far above. The angry pixie was in his room. Joe rapped on the window and the pixie picked up a jug of water to throw, but he put it down again when he saw it was Joe. Hello, he said. Are you on your way to Moonface's? He's just back. Hey, what's the matter with the faraway tree? Asked Joe. The angry pixie shook his head gloomily. Don't know, he said. Nobody knows. Nobody at all. It's a very serious thing. Why, the faraway tree should live to be 1,000 years old, and it's only 553 so far. The owl was asleep in his bed. No water came down from Dame Washalot. When the children got up as far as her branch, they saw her talking seriously to old Mrs. Saucepan, who was busy arranging stacks of new-made cakes on her stall. Can't think what's the matter, Dame Washalot was saying. I've been here on this branch for nearly 100 years, and never have I known one single leaf wither. Why, the tree grows new ones each day, and fruit too. Many's the time I've stripped this branch of fruit, and before I've cooked it, it's been full again of some other kind of fruit. Now there's none to be seen. What do you think is the matter? Asked Joe, climbing up. But neither of the old women knew. Mr. What's-its-name was looking carefully at every curled-up withering leaf to see if caterpillars were the cause of the trouble. I thought if it was caterpillars, I'd send a call to all the birds in the enchanted wood, he said. They would soon put things right by eating the grubs. But it isn't caterpillars. The children went on to Moonface's. He was in his curved room with Silky, but he didn't beam at them as usual as he opened his door. He looked anxious and sad. Hello, he said. How nice to see you. We've just got back. And what a shock we got when we saw the tree. I believe it's dying. Oh no, said Joe, quite shocked. It's a magic tree, surely. Yes, but even magic trees die if something goes wrong with them, said Moonface. The thing is, no one knows what's wrong, you see. We might put it right if we knew. Do you think the roots want water? Asked Beth. Moonface shook his head. No, it's been a wet summer, and besides, the tree's roots go down very, very deep, right into some old caves deep down below. Jewels were once found there, but I don't think there are any now. You know, said Joe, looking serious, my father once had a lovely apple tree that suddenly went like this, all its leaves curling up. I remember quite well. What was the matter with it? Said Silky. There was something wrong with its roots, said Joe. I don't know what, but I know my father said that when a tree's roots go wrong, the tree dies unless you can put the trouble right. But what could go wrong with the faraway tree's roots? Said Moonface, puzzled. Could there be anyone down there interfering with them? Said Joe. Moonface shook his head. I shouldn't think so. No one is allowed at the roots, you know. Those old jewel caves were closed up as soon as the tree's roots reached to them. Still, it would be a good idea to find out if anything is damaging the roots, said Joe. Could you send a rabbit down, do you think? He could tell you, couldn't he? Yes, that's quite a good idea, said Moonface. He went to the door and whistled for the red squirrel. When the little squirrel came, Moonface told him to fetch one of the rabbits that lived in the wood. One soon came bounding up the tree like the squirrel. It was odd to watch him. He was pleased to help Moonface. Listen, Waffles, said Moonface, who knew every single rabbit in the enchanted wood. Do you know your way down to the jewel caves at the roots of the faraway tree? Of course, said Waffles, but the caves are closed, Moonface. They have been for years. Well, we think something may be damaging the roots of the tree, said Moonface. We want you to go down as far as you can and see if there is anything to find out. Come back and tell us as soon as you can. Could I, please, go down the slippery slip just once? Said the rabbit shyly. Of course, said Moonface, and threw him a cushion. There you are, give it back to the red squirrel at the foot of the tree. The rabbit shot off down the slippery slip, squealing with excitement and delight. Isn't he sweet? Said Franny. I wish he was mine. I hope it won't be long before he's back. Shall we have lunch, Moonface? We've bought some new bread from Mother and some cakes from Mrs. Saucepan. They began their meal. Before they had finished, the rabbit was back, looking very scared. Moonface! Oh, Moonface! Look at my bobtail! Half the hairs are gone. What's happened to it? Asked Moonface. Well, I went down to the old jewel caves and I heard a hammering and banging noise, said the rabbit. I burrowed a hole to see what the noise was, and guess what? All the caves are filled with little people. I don't know who they are. They saw me and one caught hold of my tail and nearly pulled all the hairs out. Everyone sat silent, staring from one to the other. People in the old jewel caves, hammering and crashing round the roots of the faraway tree. No wonder it was dying. Maybe the roots were badly damaged. We'll have to look into this, said Moonface at last. Thank you, Waffles. Your hairs will grow again. Red Squirrel, go down the tree and tell everyone to come up here. We must hold a meeting. Something has got to be done. Chapter 21, Down to the Jewel Caves. The red squirrel bounded off down the tree to call everyone to a meeting. Go up to Moonface's, he told everyone. There is to be an important meeting about the faraway tree, most important. Soon everyone was on their way up the tree to Moonface's house at the top. Dame Washalot arrived, panting. Behind her came old Mrs. Saucepan. Mr. What's-its-name came, and Saucepan too. The owl came with 2 friends. The woodpecker came, and 2 or 3 squirrels with a good many baby squirrels to join in the excitement. The angry pixie came too, of course. It was too much of a squash in Moonface's curved room, so everyone sat outside on the broad branch. Moonface addressed the meeting. Something very serious is happening, he said. The faraway tree is dying, as you can all see for yourselves. Even in the last hour or 2, its leaves have curled up even more, and not a single fruit or berry of any kind is to be found from top to bottom, a thing that has never happened before. That's true, said Dame Washalot. I've always depended on the tree for my pies, but now there isn't any fruit, not even a raisin. We have discovered that there are people in the jewel caves at the roots of the tree, said Moonface solemnly. "Oh, oh," said everyone in amazement. "Waffles went down and saw them," said Moonface. The little rabbit almost fell off the branch with pride when his name was mentioned. "But the jewel caves have been closed for many years," said Dame Washalot in surprise. "Yes, because the roots of the tree went deep into them," said Moonface. "Anyway, I don't think there were any more jewels to be found, but certainly there are robbers who think there may be some left, and they have come after them, forced open the caves, and are damaging the roots of the tree in their hunt for jewels. Unless we can stop them quickly, I'm afraid the faraway tree will die." "Oh dear, would it have to be chopped down?" said Beth in dismay. She couldn't bear to think of such a thing. It would be dreadful. All the children were as fond of the friendly faraway tree as the tree folk were themselves. "What are we going to do about it?" said the angry pixie. "I wish I could get at those robbers." "We'd better find out who they are first, and how many of them," said Silky. "Then we could send a message round the enchanted wood and get lots of people to come and help us to force the robbers out of the caves. Maybe if we could stop them damaging the roots any more, the tree would recover." "I will go down to the jewel caves myself and speak with the robbers," said Moonface, his round face looking sad. "Saucepan, will you come with me?" "Oh yes, of course, without a doubt," said old Saucepan at once. "I'm coming too," said What's-its-name. "And all of us are," said the children at once, and Silky nodded as well. This looked like a very unpleasant kind of adventure, but they meant to share it as usual. "Well, I think we should go right away," said Moonface, getting up. "No time like the present. Come in, all of you?" "Yes," said everyone, and stood up. Connie was thrilled. What adventures she had had since she came to stay with Joe, Beth and Franny. "Where's Waffles?" said Moonface, looking round. "Ah, there you are. Waffles, please lead the way." Waffles proudly ran down the tree in front of the others. Everyone followed. When they came to the ground, Waffles ran to a big rabbit hole. "Down here," he said. So down with the children and the 4 tree folk, down, down into the darkness. It was a good thing the rabbit hole was so big. Rabbit burrows in the enchanted wood were always on the large side because the goblins, gnomes, pixies and elves liked to use the underground tunnels when it rained. "I've never been down a rabbit hole before," said Connie. "Never. It's like a dream. I hope I won't wake up and find it isn't real. I like this sort of thing." So did the others. It was peculiar down the rabbit hole, rather dark and a bit musty. Waffles knew the way very well, of course. He knew every burrow in the wood. Here and there were strange lanterns hanging from the roof where it was a bit higher than usual, usually at sharp corners. It was a bit of a squash when anyone else came along in the opposite direction, for then everyone had to flatten themselves against the wall of the tunnel. Quite a lot of people met them. Rabbits, of course, and elves and goblins seemed to be hurrying about by the 100. "Waffles, are you sure this is the way?" said Moonface at last, when it seemed as if they had been wandering along dark tunnels for miles and miles. "Are you sure you are not lost?" Waffles made rather a rude snort. "Lost? As if any rabbit is ever lost underground," he said. "No, Moonface, you can trust me. I never get lost here. I'm taking you the shortest way." They went on again, feeling their way along the tunnels, glad of an unexpected ray of light from a lantern now and again. And then they heard something. "Listen," said Moonface, stopping so suddenly that Joe bumped right into him. "Listen, what is that?" Everyone stood and held their breath, and they heard strange muffled noises coming from the depths of the earth. Boom, 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 boom. "That's the people I told you about," said Waffles importantly. We're getting near the jewel caves. Connie felt a bit strange. She held What's-its-name's hand tightly. Boom! Boom, boom. It's the robbers all right, said Moonface, and his voice echoed strangely down the tunnel. Can't you hear their choppers? Is it safe to go on? Said Silky doubtfully. You don't think they'll take us prisoners or anything, do you? I'll go first with Joe, said Moonface, and you others can keep back in the shadows if you like. I don't think the robbers would try to capture us. They would know that a whole army of people would come down from the enchanted wood after them if they did. They went forward again, making as little noise as they could. Even old Saucepan hardly made a clank or a clang with his saucepans and kettles. Boom, boom, boom. The sound came nearer still. Boom, boom, boom. They're certainly working very hard, said Joe in a whisper. They're using choppers to break down the caves to see if any more precious stones are hidden there. No wonder the tree is dying. They must be striking the roots every time. There's a root. Look, said Silky, and she pointed to a thick rope-like thing that jutted out into the tunnel right across their path. It shone strangely in the light of an old lantern that swung from the roof just there. Yes, that's a root, said Moonface, climbing over it. Be careful of it, all of you. So they were very careful, because they didn't want to hurt the faraway tree at all. It was being hurt quite enough as it was by the robbers. Now, here are the caves, said Waffle excitedly as they turned a corner and came to a great door studded with iron and brass. You can't get through that door. It's locked. How did you get into the cave, said Moonface. Oh, yes, I remember you made a burrow. Where is it? Waffles pointed to it with his paw, but gosh, out of it pointed something sharp and glittering. Whatever could it be? Moonface stepped up to see. He came back and whispered gravely, It's a sharp spear. The robbers certainly don't want anyone to get into the caves again. There are three of these doors, I know, but the robbers will have locked them all, and any rabbit hole will be guarded by them too, with spears. There must be someone holding the spear, said Joe. Let's go and talk to him. Come on, Moonface. We'll tell him what we think of robbers who hurt the roots of the dear, old, faraway tree. And that's where I'm leaving it for today.